What's good, y'all? It's your boy Dose. Man, I'm excited about this one. This is you're going to get to tap into a conversation between two good friends, reminiscing, just talking about our radio days. But before we get into anything, I'm DJ Ovadose. I like to go by Dose now, even though the DJ Ovadose name is the name I used for a long time. This is my brother, my partner in crime for many years, DJ Coolaid.
I am DJ Coolaid, and now I just go by Kool-Aid because I kind of retired also.
And this is the Pass the Mic episode, so hope you don't get annoyed by us having to move the mic. We only got one of these microphones, so we're going to have to be passing it around. But yeah, man, we just wanted to get in here, and we got some questions from social media. We got some stuff that we were talking about that we want to keep talking about and bring you guys into the convo. So we'll get started, man. One of the questions, I think Risco, he was the first artist on Choppaholix, actually. And we'll get into all the history and all that, but we'll start off with his question. And Kool-Aid, you got his question up here? What was it? It was Risco Funk. He said, who taught you how to DJ? Where did that passion start for you? Where did you learn the skills you needed to navigate the politics of radio and build your brand as an entrepreneur in the independent music business in the early 2000s? My boy Risco threw 8 questions into one, man. Kool-Aid, I'll let you answer first, man. Who taught you how to DJ and where did that passion start for you?
Well, what happened was actually DJing started for me learning. I learned to DJ, and I had kind of like a head start when it came to DJing because I already knew how to count. I used to be in band. I started in band in 8th grade, when usually students start 6th, 7th, beginning band, things like that. So I had it in my blood already, I guess.
You play drums?
Yeah, play percussion. So I learned to count, and it all kind of overlapped with the DJing. Whenever a friend of mine gave me his stuff for like $300 back in high school, my first pair of Newmarks and a Sony CD player, and
what year was this?
I don't remember.
What year did you graduate?
I want to say, well, if I would have graduated, it would have been 95. I want to say about 93, maybe 94. So that's how I started DJing, and then I already had the whole counting thing down because of band. And then from there, I just took it, started buying records. Back then, we had record stores, Soundwaves, your corner record stores at Northwest Mall, Almeida, and things like that. And it was hunting. It was like a hunting season to get the best records, So that's with that. And then I got more into it, and I started learning more and more, and then Jam Master Jay became one of my favorite DJs. Run Demon C, rest in peace, Jam Master Jay. And just from there, I just kept doing my homework about it till I got to the radio.
So for me, I fell in love with the art of DJing through breakdance. I lived in Chicago for a season, and through breakdancing and listening to the Chicago house music DJs, they were called the Hot Mix 5, and I had a friend named Rogelio. He's no longer with us, man, but he turned me on to all things hip hop, graffiti, breakdancing, house music, and back then in Chicago, it was the mid 80s. I'd say about 85, 84 maybe. That's when we started hearing all the house music and the DJs live on the radio. That's when I fell in love with DJing. I would listen to those guys mixing live on the radio, and I was like, man, that's what I want to do. I want to mix live on the radio. And we can get into the details a little bit later, but nobody really taught me how to DJ. I started with a little keyboard, a Casio keyboard sampler. Like I would try to remix the mixes that I would record on the radio, and then I wanted to sell mixtapes because in the flea markets in Chicago, you had DJs over there mixing live and recording them onto a tape, and then they would sell them. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna make my own version of these mixes, and I would just sample little pieces and play them back on a little Casio keyboard, and it sounded like trash. And I was trying to figure out like how do I get a booth at the flea market, but I'm like 11 years old, so it never really happened. But that was my mentality, right? Like I was like, man, I love doing this. I see that they're making money off of it. I want to do this too. But I just kind of learned on my own, man, by listening to those guys. Now, as time passed, you know, DJ Kamikaze and other DJs like helped me refine my skills as a DJ. But I kind of was self taught. You know, nobody really taught me. Where did the passion start for you, man? I grew up my house growing up. My parents loved music, especially my mom. Man, she's number one, the biggest encourager, and then number two, she just loved all things music, man. So we would have disco music playing, we would have Tigres del Norte, we would have salsa like El Gran Combo, we would have cumbia, we would have all kind rock, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Doors, like man, anything you can think of. My parents had those records, and I remember sitting in front of their record player, and I would sit through and look at the albums, man, and look at the credits and just listen with headphones and just enjoy the music, man. So that's what influenced me music wise, you know, just the home. The other question was how do we navigate the politics of radio, man? I kind of try to stay out of the politics, man. You know, I never liked the politics. Um, but we kind of had to deal with things, but I try to separate myself. I always try to separate myself from the drama, man. What do you think about that whole radio politics thing?
I'm about the same way, man. I just try to stay away from that. You know, yeah. It at first it was cool. Radio was cool at first, but then it got political. You know, they just basically want to get paid for everything, but you know, they took the fun out of it. You know, at least for me, I don't know about you, but it started getting too repetitive.
Yeah, so most of you don't know, like radio, they have a certain amount of songs, right? And if you sit and listen to the radio station all day long, you're gonna hear those songs over and over and over again because radio stations don't get paid unless people are listening and people are buying commercials. That's how a radio station would make their money. So the radio station has to play your favorite song whenever you're listening. So if you're in the car, they want you to hear your favorite song. If you went in the store and came back out, guess what? They want you to hear your favorite song again, right? So it's cyclical. Most people only listened back then. I don't keep up with it anymore, but back then, most people only listened to the radio. And I'm throwing a number out there because I don't remember the actual statistics, but most people only listen like 15, 20 minutes at a time. That's called TSL, time spent listening, their radio rating terminology. So what they do is they would have a handful of records, and some were the power records that these are the absolute hits right now that need to go over and over and over. And then they would have some recurrence, or like some throwbacks. And it really, that's what it was, man. And us as DJs, we wanted to play dope music, man. And for me, it was a dream to get on the radio. You know, I explained that, excuse me, that was my childhood dream.
But we still had to follow rules.
We had to follow rules, man, and that was the hardest part to where like we had to make sure, okay, you got to start with a power record, and then you got to follow it up with either a current or a recurrent, and kind of there was a formula for playing records, which in hindsight it makes you think a little bit better about how you play music, right? And I think whether we want to credit that or not, Kool-Aid, I think that made us better DJs in the club because it trained us to you know rotate and to play the music and rotate people on and off the dance floor. Let's segue into that, right? I just talked about the clubs. So we started, you and I met.
That's how we learned the
we learned. So yeah. That's the programming. So you would program a certain way for radio, then you would program a certain way for clubs, and then sometimes you would do live broadcasts from the club, which you kind of had to mix them both. And hopefully we'll get to that conversation. If not, we'll have to do a part 2. But let's rewind and talk about how we met. We met through Candyman, right? Yeah. Candyman was a promoter that I met. Candyman where there was a big, was it Concert Avenue? Was that the event? There was an event either.
Where we met?
No, where I met Candyman. I don't
know where you met him.
I met Candyman at it was either an event or a venue called Concert Avenue on the southeast side. I DJ'd there and SPM performed there. This is, man, it had to have been like 90, maybe mid 90s. I don't know what, it had to have been like maybe 93. I had probably already graduated, so probably about 93. And I met Candyman. You already knew Candyman, right? How did you know Candyman?
Just around the city, here and there.
What was he doing?
Promoting.
Car shows?
Car shows, everything, and that's where we met. The car club I was in at that time. Shout out to Aztec Image Car Club. That was back in the day.
You remember what year it was?
No. But that's where we met.
About 96.
At the Guadalupe in Second Ward.
I don't know what it's called.
It's by the Maxwell House.
Plaza?
There you go. By Maxwell House, we were throwing a car show there, and he came up to me and asked me if it was cool if I let you DJ. I'm like, yeah, sure. It was hot that day. I'm like, you could take the rest of the day if you want. I wasn't a hater. I let whoever. I was trying to come up too. I was just starting myself. So that's how we met, and he invited me to Hullabaloo. So you're doing Hullabaloo's at that time.
I was already at Hullabaloo?
Yeah, he told me to swing by on a Tuesday, and we chopped it up. We exchanged numbers, and to this day, I still got to deal with you.
He says he still got to deal with me because we're always clowning, always making fun of each other, and kind of competing. Right now we're competing because I think my beard looks better than his beard, but y'all can chime in. So you got the colder beard. I think mine looks better, but he thinks his looks better. we're like brothers, man. We joke around and play with each other. So, Hullabaloo's. So, man, we met. So I was already doing Hullabaloo's, but before Hullabaloo, one thing that a story I tell people all the time, man, is I was working. I never liked mobile DJing back then. I wanted to be on the radio, man. That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be on the radio. But I knew that I had to do mobile DJing, and then I had to do some little nightclubs, and I did a lot of little bars on the southeast side of town. Tejano Nights was one of them. I did a place that was called Boomers that ended up being Tejano Wild that ended up... So Hullabaloo was the happening spot, right? It was El Dorado and Hullabaloo. Remember El Dorado Ranch and Hullabaloo? Those were the happening Tejano spots, and they had some nights where it wasn't Tejano. But I wanted to be on the radio, and Tejano Wild, it was called... So it was Boomers. It's on Spencer and Preston, or Spencer, somewhere in Pasadena, but it's on Spencer. It used to be called Boomers. Then it was called Gorilla Wild, or Gorillas. It was called Gorillas, and it was kind of like a sports bar type of deal. And I got a part-time gig DJing there, like I was the backup DJ. Then Tejano was booming, and they're like, we're going to bring either Kakukuka or Super Tejano 108, one of those two big Tejano stations. And I was like, man, they're going to do a live broadcast. Have I told you this story, Koolaid?
No.
Okay. So I'm thinking, man, I'm going to do a live broadcast. I'm going to be on the radio. It's playing Tejano, but I don't care. I wanted to be on the radio. So I'm DJing, and they're having a meeting with the radio station, right? And I can see them from the DJ booth. They're having a meeting. I'm super excited, man. I'm going to be on the radio, finally. Well, after their meeting, the manager calls me to his office, and he says, hey, Robert, got to talk to you about something, man. We're gonna start doing Tejano, and we're gonna do a live broadcast. So far, it's sounding great, right? Yeah, live broadcast is when you're DJing from the club uh, on the radio.
And let me guess, they want to bring their own DJ.
They wanted to bring, so they didn't. They fired me, and they hired Iceman from Hullabaloo, because Iceman had a big name. Shout out to the homie Iceman. Iceman had a big name on the southeast side of town, and he was the Tejano DJ on the southeast. Him and homie Marco were like, they were it. And I remember that meeting. I started crying, like my eyes started watering, man. I was like devastated, dude. I was like, man, there I thought I was gonna be on the radio, and no no radio for me. But a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, wait a minute. If Iceman is going to Hullabaloo, who's DJing at Hullabaloo? So I took one of my mixtapes where I already had a tape where I had done some Tejano. Remember at my mom's house, I used to have my setup there, and I used to do mixes all the time and practice all the time. I took Roger Carmona. I gave Roger Carmona my mixtape. I don't know if it was later that night or the next day. He calls me and say, "Hey man, can you come in? We wanna audition you," or I don't remember what it was, but I remember it was a Friday night. I went in there, and me and DJ Tony G, I forgot. Tony G was cold. Tony G worked at a smaller club though. He worked at a little club called Bees Island Club, which was right down the street from where I used to live at my mom's house. But that night, it was me and Tony G mixing, and Gus, the owner of Hullabaloo, listened to every single song we played before we played it, because Iceman had just left. Gus was nervous that another DJ was going to come in and take all his business. That other club was going to take all the business. So he wanted to make sure that we were playing the right music. So he micromanaged us, and a lot of people didn't like Gus but me and him really clicked. Like, and I learned a lot from Gus. Like, Gus knew, he was the owner of Hullabaloo. He made a lot of money there, and he really knew his stuff, man. He's a Greek dude. Didn't really know. I mean, he did know that they had no culture at that time, but obviously it wasn't his culture, but he learned it, for business. So now I'm at Hullabaloo. Now I get hired on at Hullabaloo. Next thing you know, not partying. What was it? Kiss 98.5, Kiss again 93.3, 103.3. So it was a radio station that came into town, and they would play all the up-tempo Miami bass type music, and I was like, man, that's the station I want to be on. But they already had their DJs. It was like, what, Johnny J, Ronnie G, the Cracker Nuts, who else? Kamikaze. Was Kamikaze on Kiss? I think he was, yeah. X-Ray. So there was really like, they already had their guys, but I met G-Man at Hullabaloo, and me and G-Man clicked, man. We were real close for a while, and he's like, man, I'm gonna get you on the radio one day. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm just waiting, and I'm still DJing and, doing little clubs. I think at this point I had already started doing Metropolis. I was doing Hullabaloo. That's when we met. When I met you, was I already DJing Thursdays at Metropolis? No. Okay, so I met him, and then I started doing Thursdays at Metropolis.
When you met me, that's when you started getting all the clubs on this side. Enough about the south. It's all about the north side now. Because when I started, it was just, I'm from Spring Branch, so that's when I started DJing. Doing the house parties for the neighborhoods and stuff like that. But remember, when we met, you invited me to some little house party. It was like by a bridge, and that's when I met Spice. And y'all were doing, it was over here off of 45 somewhere.
That's when we were doing Tejano Nights?
No, it wasn't a club. It was a house. And we were just there getting down and stuff. And also, it was another little one. Remember the Post Oak party that we did when I said, I'm going to play some booty?
I remember.
It was a whole bunch of DJing. A whole bunch of DJs. It was upstairs.
I don't remember.
It was a building, Post Oak and Westheimer, right across the Container Center.
Man, You know what? I vaguely remember. There was like on the second floor.
Yeah, it was a promoter who threw that.
So, man, that's crazy, dude. I vaguely remember that, man. So then, so you were doing house parties on the north side?
Yeah, I was doing house parties, and tell you the truth, I wasn't even thinking about radio. I was just trying to make some money out of it. I turned it into a business and quinceañeras, and I linked up with a couple of dudes from the Spring Branch area, and then I met Frosty Ice, and I linked them with him, and he got me into the whole club thing, you know. Power Tools. It was the first time I DJ'd at a club in the tunnel. He hooked me up with a bunch of little gigs like that, and I would bring my equipment. And to me, it was just about building my name. You know, if I got $100 for it, cool. If I didn't, cool. You know, it's just you got when you're a rookie, you just want to push your name out there and get connects. You know, get numbers, meet people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, network. So, and that's when I was driving that big blue Suburban with the roasters on it. So, yeah, and then from there, I got into all those little clubs and stuff, and then I moved over to. I met homie Marco at Middle Earth or Club AM. I don't remember, but he told me one day that he was gonna hook me up on the radio, and I think you were already on it. You were doing production for HBC at the time, which is now Univision, and then we just kind of both climbed the ladder from there, you know, and there's a lot more, but I got to think about it real quick.
Yeah, man. So things kind of get blurry, man. So I met G-Man. I finally get a call from G-Man. He said, "Hey, we're going to be doing a nighttime show on 100.7." It was at the Tejano station, but at night they were going to play like the Miami bass type music. And when Coolaid said, "I want to play some booty," that's what we used to call it. We used to call it booty music, right? But I finally get a call. I don't know if he paged me or what, but I remember calling him. And he's like, "Hey man, are you ready?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been waiting on the call." So it was homie Marco, because homie Marco was already working at the station. G-Man went to go work with him, or I think he was already working with him. And then somehow they decided to do. They got the green light to do a younger Latin urban type of show from 7 p.m. to midnight. So they called me and Baby J and Clean Cut. No, it was at first it was just three of us. So I'm trying to remember which of the two cracker. It was two Cracker Nuts and me that started at first. Baby J and Clean Cut. That sounds right. Yeah, Baby J, Clean Cut, and me. We were the first mixers on Party 104.9, and then somehow down the line, you came along. Go ahead.
You got in that way, but I already knew all those guys. I was hanging out with them.
Yeah, you already knew them.
I was hanging out with them on the outside. You know, I wasn't in radio yet there, but I knew about everything. Yeah. You know, but like I said, I really wasn't pushing the radio thing. You know, I was still learning. So that's how I knew all the guys, and I used to hang out with all of them. I used to hang out at Clean Cut and Baby J's house because I lived down the street from them, and I used to see them cut it up all the time, and I'm like, whoa. So me, I wasn't a big cutter like that, but it was just cool to watch.
No, and that's true. Like you were always everywhere. Like wherever we were, whether you were DJing or not, your word was hang out. Like you want to go hang out. You would either, if I'm DJing, you would hang out. If other homies were DJing, you would go hang out. And one of the things, somebody asked a question about the Choppaholix, segueing a little bit into Choppaholix. Like I always saw you as the promotion end of Choppaholix, because you were always out there. You were always networking. You were always talking to people. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like I really saw you as that role. I think we never really talked about that, But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, Kool-Aid. Now, Kool-Aid, like we both did the, the mixing and stuff like that. But I think you really held down the promotion aspect of Choppaholix.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I like that being out there, promoting, meeting people, getting the connections. I always like doing that. I wish I could have extended it further, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's the part of the business I like doing.
So let's go into some other questions here, man. Christ said on Instagram, he said, "How did you hook up with Vertical 713 back in '08? Was that when you barely got saved?" Okay. So me, yes. In '08, I got saved in '07. And I ended up knowing people that I'm trying to remember because I was going to Lakewood Church for about a year. Then I went to a church on the north side. I think it was the other way around. I went to the church on the north side for about a year. Then I went to Lakewood. And then in Bible college, I met Lil Roddy and Johnny Wayne. And I actually had already met Lil Roddy, but I met Johnny Wayne at Bible college. And they started going to Fellowship Church of Houston. Fellowship Church of Houston used to have this show on the internet that was called Vertical 713, where they would play Christian hip hop. So that's how they invited me to do a mix on there. And man, I really didn't have no Christian music or nothing. You could still find that interview online if you search DJ Ovadose Vertical 713. It's still up there. So yeah, that I barely got saved. Then it says, I watched your interview with J Vaz, and you mentioned that you stayed away from music for a while. DJ DMD did the same thing. Yeah, so right, a little bit after that interview, I stepped away from music for 9 years, and then I came back to music. It was good because I needed work on my foundation as a Christian, right? So I surrendered my life to God in '07. And then I just went all in on learning and just setting my biblical my foundation, right? My theological foundation, my Christian foundation for 9 years, and then then I got back into doing music again on the Christian side. So a question for Kool-Aid says, I saw you on the Grim and Shadow podcast interview, and you talked about Choppaholix. You mentioned that Ovadose went a different way, which you respected. Shortly after that, I saw you post a pic with yourself with a Bible. What happened? How did you come to Christ? Would you guys ever do a project together? Who are your top 5 CHH artists? Where do you guys see yourself in the next 5 years? DJ Coolaid, I know you had surgery. How have you been? Okay, so that's a lot of questions there. Let's slow down and rewind a little bit. You mentioned that Ovadose went a different way, which you respected. Shortly after that, I saw you with a Bible. What happened? How did you come to Christ?
Well, the way I came to Christ was just I was doing Joe's after party, after hour club. Joe something on the south side on Putquay, and it just hit me that I got tired of doing the same old thing. It was dark, I was getting home 7, 8, 9 in the morning. Just got tired of that,
Got tired of the nightlife?
Got tired of the nightlife, and I just want to do something different. So I came to Ovadose and talked to him about it, and he just gave me the rundown and said, man, it's time to give it up, I guess.
And it wasn't just one time though. Like it was several times, right? Like we had several of those conversations, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's the time when I really opened my eyes, and that was after my dad died. I wanted to do something else, so I started hanging out with him again, going to church and stuff, and then I got not baptized, but I got saved. And everybody falls. It hasn't been a perfect run, but I'm still here and I'm still trying to do good.
And that's the thing. A lot of people don't understand, man, is like they think they got to be perfect in order to surrender to God. And man, we're never going to be perfect. You know what I'm saying? I'm never going to be perfect. I've been a Christian for 17 years. You're not going to be perfect. Like you got the holiest of of men are still men. You know, the only one that was perfect was Christ. And if we wait until we're perfect to surrender our life to God, it just ain't ever gonna happen, man. So, um, but yeah, that's okay. So that's how you came to Christ. Will you guys ever do a project together? Um, Probably not, huh? Were you shaking your head like no, nope, nope?
No, I mean, cause even when he gave his his life to Christ fully, I still try to go out there and push Choppaholix and try to do my stuff, but it just wasn't right, or it didn't feel right without my partner. It's like we were a team, and I just finally gave it up. This last time around that I tried to do it, I tried to hook up with I forget their name, Hustle Town, and try to do stuff with them, but just I gave it up. I didn't feel right. The Holy Ghost was just trying to bring me back, and he brought me back. So
So, who are your top 5 favorite Christian hip hop artists? Let's do top 3. Do you have a top 3?
top three, and number one would be Fire right now. He's cold, and I like to give it a label to Southern down south Christian, because it's basically all Christians from here. Fire. Um, it's gonna be tough on the other two.
It's tough, man.
It's tough. There's a lot of talent out there. I tell you the truth right now. Some of these boys spit harder than secular music. I just wish it was a better way for them to be seen, known, heard, and everything else. But the beats, so throw, man. It's got to be straight throat. I'm sorry, straight throw. He got some of the killer beats on the Christian tip, and there's a lot of good producers out there. But I could see some of the secular artists coming more to Christ, even if it's just planting a seed. I mean, Fire did one with the Paul Wall, and who did one with GT Garza?
I think Stro.
Stro did one with GT Garza, and just recently, uh, Little Kiki, Sean Soto.
Oh yeah, Soto.
Soto just doing Lil Kiki. And they're all believers of God, but to really change your lifestyle, your music, and become a Christian artist. And I understand that some of these Christian artists, that's how they live from their older music, so they have to keep performing those songs and things like that to, make their bread. But I don't think you have to. But I don't know. I might be wrong. But there's some talented brothers out there on the Christian tip that they got some skills on the mic.
For show. Bruce Bang. You remember Bruce Bang?
Bang, bang, bang.
I met Bruce Bang at Soundwaves many years ago when he was an artist. Now he's one of the top engineers in the city. Yeah, he was, but he was always around. His question is, how did you? Oh no, how did you connect with GT Garza and Risco Funk? That's how I became aware of them. And for those of you on IG, like we had me and Coolaid kind of got into it because I put up a post asking people to submit their questions, and Kool-Aid started answering the questions in the comments. I was like, bro, we're supposed to answer in the video. So like he says I bit his head off, but I didn't really bite his head off. I just told him, man, don't answer no more. But he deleted them. But anyway, so all right, here's the story. Here's Choppaholix. It started. How did Choppaholix start, Kool-Aid? We were Latin. No, not Latin. What were we called? The Chop Shop.
Chop shop with double P's at the end.
Yeah, double P's, the Chop Shop. The first project we did was for Lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Because you were cool with Tommy G and Pancho
V. Yeah.
And then we ended up changing our name And I remember where too. Like we were in at Coco Loco in the back room where you DJ'd, and I threw the name. I was like, what about Choppaholix, dude? And you're like, yeah. And that's where the name came up. So go ahead.
For those who don't know, Ovadose always like to try to get the spotlight, so he always threw me in the back.
I didn't. It wasn't my decision, man. It wasn't my decision to put you in the back. But we DJ'd at that club for a long time.
Just like he's taking over this interview right now.
Go ahead. You can hold the mic. Go ahead, man. I'm not gonna say nothing no more.
Doing a good job.
I'm not gonna say nothing no more, man.
It's always been like that, anyways.
What do you mean? Explain.
You know, even though the saying says Kool-Aid and Overdose, it's always been really Overdose and Kool-Aid. So here.
No, but what does that mean? Break it down. Like they want to know. I want to know. What do you mean by that?
You know, just you've always been the type that you want to, you want to shine. You want to be seen.
I'm a control freak.
Yeah, exactly. So go ahead, control this.
I just want to keep it flowing, man. I want to keep it interesting for people, man. But you look at any time, Kool-Aid, you could do this. Look, do this. See what I'm saying? It's that easy, bro. And that's the thing. Like we're gonna be arguing and bickering like that till our last breath, man. Even though I got the colder beard out of the two.
All right, we'll see what people say.
What are we talking about? Oh, the.
I got my haircut today, so mine looks real nice.
Yeah, I got my haircut yesterday. See, I'm going bald, man. Look.
You might as well just cut it off.
Nah, I still got some. I'm good. I still got a little bit of life in there. But we gray, that's for sure. And I joke around with the homies like, man, don't ever let me catch you dyeing your beard.
This is called wisdom.
Well, it's bro. Like I'm not ashamed of being old. I consider it a blessing. You know what I'm saying? Like to be around all these years and to still be here, bro. That's a blessing, man. I don't want to hide that.
Yeah, a very good blessing.
Okay, that's enough for you. I'm just playing.
I sometimes feel like I should be gone because I have issues with my back and stuff like that. So it's hard for me because my back, I get this not a whole bunch, but a couple of times that, oh man, you just faking it. Some people think I'm faking it. Look, I don't care how built, how healthy, how masculine you are. When your spine goes out, you got no control. You're done. You're done.
Yeah, man, and I'm proud of you, man. Like at one point, you thought you were gonna be paralyzed, right, from the waist down. You thought you were gonna be paralyzed, like straight up.
Well, I was paralyzed. I just got out the hospital a couple of weeks ago. I was in there. I mean, if we go back, those who know, I had brain surgery. See, look, you can see it. I had the scar. People ask me, how did I get it? My story is a baby shark bit me. That's my story, and I'm gonna stick with it. But no, I had a procedure done where I had to take a cyst out of my brain because I was having issues with moving the bottom part of my body. So they took it out, and this happened 2 weeks after my son was born. So I've been dealing with things like this for 5 years already, basically. Because I ended up moving to San Antonio, but I always got H-Town in my heart, no matter what. Take me out of Houston, but you can't take the Houston out of me. So now I'm dealing with spine issues, and they diagnosed me with something called TM, which is transverse myelitis, a part of the MS family. And it's just inflammation in my spine. I get flare-ups, and this last time I was paralyzed from the waist down. I was in the hospital 9 days and rehab for over 3 weeks. So altogether, it was about a month and a half almost. And had to learn how to walk all over again, basically. But now, thank God, by the grace of God, I'm doing it still. I'm pushing it. I'm in a walker, but hey, I'm alive. And I have to be. My son's my motivation, So... Now, what are we talking about? We just drifted it.
I don't want to touch the mic, man. You want to get all sensitive, so I'm going to let him finish.
So, basically, yeah, I live in San Antonio, but I try to come at least once a month. It's just been about 2 months since I haven't been here because of everything that happened. And one way or another, I still work. I still try to do what I do, even though it's not heavy work. I used to truck drive for almost 10 years, but it is what it is.
We were talking about.
Here.
Thank you, sir. We were talking about
See what I mean?
Risky. How we met Risky. Um. Oh, so okay. So the question was, how did I meet? How did Risky and GT connect with us? DJ Güero was a DJ friend of mine, which we lost a few years ago. We he was already working with Risky, kind of mentoring him. And I don't know how he met Risky. We'll have to. And Risky now goes by Risco, but I always, yeah, Güero died, bro.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he died a few years ago. He died, I want to say maybe 2-3 years ago. But Risky and him were already working, and I remember he showed me Risky. He showed me a tape with Risky, and I was like, man, Risky was like what, 15? Risky was like 15. Hungry. Like, dude just soaked it all in, man. We brought him along as a rapper. He was our first rapper, and then did Grade A come next or GT? I think Grade, right?
Yeah.
Grade A is my cousin. His mom and my mom are sisters. He's a lot younger than me. I think he was probably 13 maybe. He was a kid. He was a real, like, you saw that? Shout out to Halo. Halo just sent a text message, man. What's up, homie? Halo's an artist on my label, Segundo Music. But anyway, so back then, Risco jumped on, then Grade A, which was my nephew, and then I'm sorry, my cousin, my younger cousin, and then the one you got wrong, Coolaid, was how we met GT. You don't remember how we met GT?
Through the radio, basically through Rob G.
So yes and no. He was rapping with SWAT, but remember, so I used to do sales at the radio station, right? And one of my accounts was a soda company, and we threw a concert for them on Galveston's East Beach. It was a big old, it was a big old concert with SPM, and we had a rap battle. GT won the rap battle, yeah, so we started talking to GT, and he started doing stuff with us, but he was also still working. He was still affiliated with SWAT. So, but no, Mello. Remember, Mello was it Risky and then Mello, then Grade A? Because Mello was also
at the same time.
Yeah, it was all around the same time. And the way I met Mello was through one of my clients at the radio station. They were a recording studio, and they were working with Mello. And Mello was from Chicago, and Mello had some cold punchlines. Like, he was cold, man. So at one point it was Risky, Mello, Grade A, and GT. Those were the main rappers that we worked with for the most part. I think one of the questions, you got something to say? I don't want to hog up the mic. You know, it won't be.
I'll wait. Go ahead, sir.
So somebody asked how we met Chingo.
Let's finish with the Mello and Risky part first.
Well, I think that's it. Like that's how we met. That was the question. How did we meet? You got something else to say about that?
No, go ahead.
You sure?
Go ahead.
So Chingo.
Okay, wait. I do want to say something. I got to shout out to my boy Mello, man. I told you the other day, he just beat cancer.
Oh, yeah.
You know, shout out to him. And he's still at the house, not doing, but he's actually part owner of some soda company, some pop thing. You know, he's doing pretty good, he said. He's living out in, I don't even remember. But he's doing pretty good. But I just want to shout him out because he was always a big part of us. And he always shows love, and he was I don't want to say make it sound mean, but a tag along from Mike Jones. He was his,
affiliated. He was always
yeah,
with Mike Jones.
he was his hype man or
Ice
something like
Age,
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, big shout out to Melo.
Yeah, Mello started doing stuff with Mike Jones right when Mike Jones was like blowing up. So then, okay, so we got who? Mike Jones. So then, Chingo Bling, right? I met Chingo. I first heard of Chingo through X-Ray, DJ X-Ray, because X-Ray was in San Antonio, and Chingo I think was going to school in San Antonio. So X-Ray knew about Chingo, and then X-Ray moved down, and I think shortly thereafter, Chingo moved down, and we connected. And Chingo lived not too far from my house during that time, and we did a lot of work together. And as DJs, you want to work with up and coming artists that are dope, that are new, that are different. And Chingo was all of that. You know, he was new, he was cold, he was different, he was part of the culture. And so another way that we haven't mentioned is Choppaholix. Even before Choppaholix, it was kind of like when we were doing Chop Shop, we used to have meetings at the radio station. And Michael Watts was working at our radio station for a little while doing the Screw Show. You remember that? Go ahead.
Yeah, so we got to give him much love because he was doing the Susha House mix on 100.7 or 100.9.
Man, I don't remember.
One of those.
Yeah.
Anyways, he was doing the Sunday night, and the other station across the street ended up stealing him from our station. So yeah, so I feel like I'm on the station. I can't say the name. And homie Marco came to us and asked if we want to do it. So that's how it came upon.
So was Watts doing the box, then came back to us, and then went back to the box? No, he was doing it with us. He started with us on the radio?
Yeah.
And remember, Watts was doing Sunday nights here in Houston, but we were doing a Screwed and Chop mix show in the Valley.
Yeah.
Remember that? But before all of that...
On the beat with Mike Pierce.
Yeah. Before all of that, I talked to Watts at one of our mixer meetings at the radio station and said, hey, Watts, we kind of want to do what you're doing, but we want to really gear towards the Hispanic side of things. Because, you know, back then, Hispanic Houston rap was starting to really blow up. You had Lifestyle, Gemini, Fat Texas, you had Grimm, you had SPM, Baby Bash. Like it was a real movement, right? And then there was a lot of local artists too. So there was an opportunity for us to intertwine what we know, right, as our Hispanic culture, because I was already doing the Metropolis Extravaganza. Those were Latin clubs that did kind of like a hip hop night. Coolaid, you would hang out. Remember, was that merengue, that salsa club that you used to hang out at? Not Cristal, Ecstasies. And, you know, go ahead. You want to say something about that?
Merengue king back in the day.
My boy used to dance that merengue and actually win the contest.
On Thursdays.
Mm-hmm. So I talked to Watts. I was like, Watts, we want to do that, man. And, you know, Watts had never been a hater, man. Watts was like, yeah, man, go for it. So I figured, man, we got the green light from the dude that's holding it down. Screw had already passed away. So Watts was the only one doing the Screwed and Chop. That was another question, and we'll get into that in a minute. My boy Justin asked about the controversy about calling it Screwed and Chopped versus slowed and chopped and stuff like that. So we'll answer that here in a little bit. But yeah, we were doing the Sunday night. Watts was doing Sunday nights in Houston. We were doing, was it Saturday night in the Valley? Yeah. On the Beat 98.5 with Mike Pierce. But then when Watts went to the box,
we picked it up.
Yeah, we picked it up.
Plus a night, Saturday and Sunday.
That's right. We were doing Saturday and Sunday nights here in Houston, right?
And then we picked up Sunday night San Antonio on the Beat 98.5 the Beat, and actually
XM?
Jessica Jeans was the host of that.
Oh, for real? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then we picked up some XM shows. Crisco tried to do something in Albuquerque, but that's a whole different culture, so it didn't work out. And that's about it. Plus all our mixtapes.
Yeah, at that time we were already doing mixtapes. At one point we were real cool with Paul Wall. Like me and Paul got real cool. Remember we went to the Valley to do a show with them? Paul rode with us.
Yeah. We got a picture somewhere.
Yeah, Coolaid always had all the pictures. Coolaid took all the pictures with the artists. He documented a bunch of stuff. I was always kind of like, I wasn't into pictures. I just loved the music, man, and I loved the business side of it. And yeah, I would hang out with artists, but I was kind of like almost introverted. Like I didn't talk to a whole lot of people, not as much as Coolaid. That's why I think you were the better promo end.
That and because you were always stuck in the production room and never came out. I was always in the actual, mixer room in the studio. Yeah. I was there whenever the artist came by. I was cool with the promoters on the streets, the record promoters, when they told us there's a lunch coming up. So and so who's gonna be there. I tell you the truth, I just went for the free food. Because we could get whatever we wanted.
Yeah. It was nice restaurants.
Yeah. Too. So, but we met so many people, you met them, but you just so busy working in the production room, making commercials and stuff that you didn't have time to take a picture. And back then, we had to have a, what do you call it? We didn't have phones. So we couldn't just snap a picture. Yeah. We had throwaway cameras. Yeah, or a camera.
So that's one of the things that we were talking about the other day, where I was like, no, man, we need to record this. We were talking about, back when he would take pictures. We were talking about back when you wouldn't DJ on a laptop and digital turntables. Like you had to take your records all around and your CD player and CDs. And I think we talked about, man, it started because I asked you if you had any vinyl left for sale, and then we started talking about CDs and how you could, at first you weren't able to mix on CDs. You had to just kind of find a spot on the CD where you wanted to start the song and just drop it and let it go. You couldn't really mix it. Go ahead.
CD players didn't have pitch controls.
Pitch control is the speed control, and a lot of DJs now, even myself, like I use the sync button. Like I'm not afraid to say, like I'll put it on sync and let it match up the beats by itself. I still have to mix it, but like if you were to turn off the sync button, I could still mix. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
You want to battle right now?
No.
I'm just kidding. It's not set up. So where do we want to take it now? We talked about Choppaholix, the start of Choppaholix. We talked about how we met. Oh, here's a good question. John Soto asked, what was your best moment on the radio? Man.
All of them.
For me, my best moment is when I got started. Well, man, I'm not going to lie. I used to love mixing live from Coco Loco on Saturday nights. Like every one of those, like that was my dream, man, and I lived out my dream, like my childhood dream. I was fortunate enough to be able to achieve that. So I would say two things: my first night of mixing on the radio, and then whenever I would mix live from the clubs. What would you say your favorite moment?
I remember the first time you mixed on the radio, it sounded like a pair of shoes in the dryer. I understand. You were nervous.
So that's like a DJ joke, right? Because as DJs, when we mix songs, we got to play both songs at the same time to where the beats are in sync. And when they're not in sync, like if you throw a pair of tennis shoes in the dryer, it's like the songs are not on beat. You know what I'm saying? So that's a DJ joke. Kool-Aid's shooting jabs at me.
Like that movie Drumline? One band, one sound. Well, one DJ, one sound. That's how it's supposed to be. But his were just all over the place.
Tell him you're lying, please. Tell the truth, Kool-Aid. Okay, all right.
I'm lying.
Man, looks like my battery's dying on the recording device. I'll have to.
Your battery's been dying ever since I met you.
So we might have to cut this off here. We're getting close to an hour. I think maybe we'll cut it off at an hour and then maybe do a part 2. What do you think?
Yeah. A 3 too.
Yeah, we'll keep it going.
We still got to talk about what happened in the club and how everything went on in the club. You were in the back. I mean, I'm sorry, I was in the back because he liked to shine. And it was just kicking back in the day. Clubs ain't, well, what I heard, clubs ain't like they used to be. A DJ now rock, and this ain't no shot at nobody. DJs now they DJ a club with 200-300 people, and they think they're like everything in the city. Well, we used to rock clubs with over 1,000 people in it every night. Even more in the big events that we used to do and stuff. But I ain't bragging. I'm just saying.
Yeah, man. And times have changed. Like, obviously, I'm not hanging out at the night spots no more. But even the club scene, I heard, is not what it used to be. Right? There's not a lot of people inside the night, like big nightclubs. It's more like a bar type of scene, from what I gather. But I think we can wrap up for now, man, and just encourage people to submit more questions. Just ask your questions, man, and we'll answer the best we can, as best as we can remember, man, because our memories start fading, man. But did you answer your best moment of radio before we sign off?
Oh, yeah. Well, I said all of them, but really, one moment I remember that was hilarious to me was when Suge Knight came into the studio. Suge Knight didn't give a damn. He came in there smoking a cigar in the studio, and we're whoever was there were like, "Hey, tell him to turn that cigar off. He can't be smoking in here." And we're like, "You tell him." Until it got back to Mean Green, and then, "Oh, that's how you had to do." Oh, I tell him, "Hey, Suge, can you kind of turn that cigar off?" And he's like, "That's all you have to tell me." And I'm like, "I ain't saying nothing. That's Suge Knight." That was the funniest thing that I remember. And also when Little Wayne came in there with the little backpack, he had his gun in there.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, but what can you do about it now? None. So those are probably the best ones.
And those are the times that I was not in the studio, because I used to work at the radio station making the commercials. So I got brought on as a mixing, and then Cesar Rincon, which was the production director, got promoted. So he needed somebody to fill in for him. And then he hired me. I was working at a bank at the time. He hired me as production. So I was in the studio making commercials all the time. And that's where I met my boy Steve Ponce, which Steve is the one that encouraged me to go into sales at the radio station. And that's a whole other chapter. But for now, I think we answered a lot of the questions. If we miss some, we'll compile them and we'll get them on part 2. But man, thank y'all for tuning in, Coolaid. Thank you for coming by. It just so happened you were coming into H-Town and we were able to get this done. So,
nah, I came over here just for this, bro. So you owe me a dinner.
Man, thank y'all for tuning in. Chime in with more questions. We'd love to answer them for you. And I think that's about it, man. You got anything else to say, Coolaid?
Check out his Segundo music, man. He got a lot of good artists. Like I say, he likes to shine, so he started his own thing. He don't remember about me no more, and because I don't live in Houston, I live in San Antonio.
We can get into details, Coolaid. Like, we can talk about how we bumped heads, or we could talk about how you took the Choppaholix credit card and would fill up your gas tank with it and wouldn't tell me, and then I found out. We could talk about all that. You want to talk about all that?
I needed gas. I had to deliver the product.
Oh, we gonna sign off, man. Love y'all. Chime in for the next one. We're out of here.
Peace out, y'all.